Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Monday, January the 23rd. We do have a 7-game Monday slate. So, as always guys, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each one of these 7 games, give you guys a quick breakdown what I do like, taking a first look at this slate on Sunday night. But as always, before we get started with the breakdown, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos and if they do help you out, please hit that like button down below. I always do appreciate the likes. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel and you've never checked out PrizePicks before, PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks and use my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And for those of you that have never heard about PrizePicks, they're a player prop site, very simple and easy to use, a little bit different than your traditional DFS site. You're not building out a lineup or competing against other players. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. You make an entry, you can make at least 2 picks, or you have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 6 picks. You can win up to 25x your money on PrizePicks. You can also mix and match sports. So if you like to dabble into other sports, PrizePicks does offer pretty much every sport imaginable: NFL, college football, college basketball, esports, tennis, pretty much everything. So give them a try, guys. Make sure to use that promo code NOAH when you do sign up, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk through Monday slate. 7-gamer. Hope you guys all had a good weekend. And let's get to it. So first game of the night is Boston and Orlando. We'll start off on the Boston side here, and there are some injuries on Boston to talk about today. No Marcus Smart, no Malcolm Brogdon, so the Celtics are going to be pretty thin in the backcourt, and then Robert Williams is questionable too. So obviously, if Robert Williams misses, they would be thin in the front court as well. But we'll start off at the top with Tatum and Brown. Tatum's coming in at 10,900. Jaylen Brown coming in at 9,200. I think without Smart and without Brogdon, we will see even more ball handling for these guys, even more usage for these guys. I don't have an issue with either one of Tatum or Brown. I think where they're priced at, they both look like solid plays, but neither one stand out as priority options. Now, Tatum's been great as of late, been putting up some huge games. Obviously, some of those games recently were without Jaylen Brown, but last game against Golden State, went to overtime, but Tatum still had a huge game, had 19 rebounds. Look, really good matchup against Orlando. I don't think Orlando really has anyone to match up with Tatum, so I'm fine with Tatum. I'm fine with Brown. Neither are priority plays, but they're definitely viable options. The guys that I really like, though, from Boston are kind of the cheap guys. So with Robert Williams questionable, if he plays at 5,600, I think he's kind of interesting. Robert Williams has been starting lately, and he has been playing pretty decent minutes. Last game, he played 15 minutes, and that was all in the first half. Obviously, he got injured last game, didn't return, but he was on pace to play like 30 minutes last game. Previous games, 29, 28, 27, 27. It seems like they're going to play him, 26 to 30 minutes a night. And Robert Williams is a really good permanent producer. When he's on the floor, he can score, rebound, get assists, he can get defensive stats. 5,600, I'm fine with him if he's in. If he's out, that obviously benefits Al Horford. Al Horford would pretty much play all of his minutes at center. His permanent production is definitely better without Robert Williams. I think at 5,500, Horford would be a viable option today if Robert Williams gets ruled out. And then Derek White, I made the thumbnail for today. I think Derek White's a really good value. He's only 5,400. He's going to have to play a ton here without Smart and without Brogdon. They're just really thin in the backcourt, so I think we can expect 30-plus minutes from Derek White. And playing with Tatum and Brown, I don't expect the usage for Derek White to be like amazing, but he should get some time with those guys maybe on the bench. Maybe he'll get some time where only one of those two guys are on the floor. So at 5,400, I definitely like Derek White today as a value. I'm expecting him to start at point guard. Don't exactly know what the Celtics starting lineup will be, but it should be White, Tatum, Brown, Horford, and then if Williams plays, Williams should start. If Williams doesn't play, they could go with Grant Williams as a starter. And I think if Robert Williams does get ruled out, that might benefit Grant Williams too. He's only 4,800. I think he'd be a potential value. If Robert Williams got ruled out, and then a guy like Peyton Pritchard probably will get some minutes off the bench. I don't think Peyton Pritchard is going to be a viable DFS play. But after Smart got injured last game, he did play 26 minutes. So at 3,300, he's a punt option that I think is in play here, just because without Brogdon, without Smart, they are pretty thin on guards. Pritchard's going to get minutes, so he's viable at 3,300. But that'll do it for the Boston side. Now looking at Orlando here, pretty much off of Orlando in this spot. I mean, tough matchup against Boston. I really don't like targeting these Magic guys, especially when it's like a decent sized slate with 7 games tonight. I think there's going to be other teams we really want to target. That there's going to be some teams that are shorthanded that we just rather go to. So don't love much on Orlando. Banchero, Franz Wagner, they're okay, but I don't really like either one. Same with Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter Jr. I do want to mention that Jonathan Isaac is actually expected to make his season debut. He's listed as questionable, but the word is that he is expected to play. So it's good to see Jonathan Isaac back on the floor. I don't think he's really going to be DFS viable in his first game back from a big injury. But it's good to see him back on the floor. Florida State guy. I'm a big Florida State fan, so I watched Jonathan Isaac a little bit when he was in college. 4,400 again. I don't think he's going to be DFS viable, but did want to mention that he is expected to make his season debut today. But again, nothing really on the Magic I like. Most of my interest in this game is on the Boston side. So let's move on to the next game, Milwaukee and Detroit. Milwaukee looks like they're going to be fully healthy for this game. Giannis and Chris Middleton are both listed as probable for today, so both those guys are expected to play now. We have seen in the past Milwaukee has listed guys probable before, and then they get ruled out. But I think for now we have to assume that Giannis is playing, that Middleton's playing. Look, matchup here against Detroit is obviously really good. Detroit's been one of the worst defensive teams in the league. I don't think, Drew at 9K, I'm pretty much off of with Middleton and Giannis back. Middleton at 6,900, I'm pretty much off of as well. I could maybe see playing Giannis here. Giannis has not been that great lately when he's been healthy. The last few games he's played, he's been out for a while too. He's been out for like 10 days, so they could maybe limit him a little bit in his first game back from injury. It's a game against Detroit that they should easily win. I'd be very surprised if Giannis just comes out of the gate and plays like 36 minutes. So I'm not really that interested in Giannis here, and I really don't like many bucks on the slate. Obviously, all these guys were priced up for when Giannis was out. So now that Giannis is returning and Middleton's returning, these guys just all look overpriced. So yeah, I don't see myself going to many Milwaukee guys here. I expect them to put up points against this Detroit team, but where everyone's priced at, there's really no priority place from the Bucks today. And then on the other side, looking at Detroit, Detroit, they're another team, when they're fully healthy, I don't love a ton, but they are going to be missing a few guys today. No Isaiah Stewart, still without Marvin Bagley, and worth mentioning that Killian Hayes is questionable as well. So this is kind of the big one. If Killian Hayes does get ruled out, I'm not sure what Detroit would do with the starting lineup. They could just they could start Jaden Ivey at point guard and then move someone else into the starting lineup, or they could go with a Corey Joseph if he were to start. They could maybe go with Alec Burks, but I think they like to bring Alec Burks off the bench. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see, with Killian Hayes if he plays or not, and what the starting lineup would look like. I think Jaden Ivey would get a little bit of a boost now. The matchup's pretty terrible here against Milwaukee, but Ivey would at least be playable if Hayes is out. I think Bojan would get a little bit of a boost. He'd be playable, but again, I don't really want to target many Detroit guys in a tough matchup against the Bucks. Sadiq Bey, 5,800. He's been playing well lately, but his price tag's gotten to a point where I don't think he's a standout option. And without Isaiah Stewart, there's going to be minutes available for the bigs. Jalen Duren's going to play a lot here. No Stewart, no Bagley, so he'll probably play 30-plus minutes if the game's competitive and if he's not in foul trouble. Last game, he was really productive. I'm not exactly sure what happened last game for him to only play 18 minutes. Maybe he was just, I think they might have brought him off the bench. He was, that was a game that Stewart played in. That was the game in France. But that was a game, he came off the bench. He should be back in the starting lineup today without Stewart. So, matchup against Milwaukee is really bad. Milwaukee's done a really good job limiting center production this season, but I think Jalen Duren is going to play a lot here just because they don't have Stewart, they don't have Bagley. They're really thin on bigs, and it doesn't seem like they really want to play Nerlens Noel. Nerlens Noel has barely played lately. He was a DMP last game, so we're probably going to get 30-plus minutes from Duren. He's probably my favorite play on Detroit right now at 4,500. And then I do want to mention that if Killian Hayes gets ruled out, I think Alec Burks would benefit. He would get some minutes, off the bench. He probably wouldn't start, but I think he would play 24, 25 minutes off the bench. And Alec Burks has been productive when he's gotten minutes this season, so I would be interested in him as a value play if Killian Hayes gets ruled out. But that'll do it for that game. Let's move on to the next game, Atlanta and Chicago. So we'll start off on the Chicago side. Chicago is fully healthy here. They got Zach LaVine, Vooch, DeRozan all healthy. LaVine's been playing really, really well lately. His price tag, though, has gotten up to 9,600. So at 9,600, I'm pretty much off LaVine. I just think the price tag is too high for my liking, especially with DeRozan healthy, with Vooch healthy. 9,100 for Vooch feels, priced about right. I think the matchup against Atlanta is it's okay, but with Clint Capella back, I don't love the spot for Vooch. DeRozan at 8,900. If I had to play any one of the Bulls guys, I think DeRozan would be my favorite play. But again, I don't see myself going too much on Chicago here. These guys all feel priced correctly. Obviously, LaVine and Vooch were priced up a lot for when DeRozan is out, or DeRozan was out. And now that DeRozan's back, those guys are kind of overpriced. DeRozan himself, I don't love his price tag. The rest of Chicago, I'm not really interested in. And then on the other side with Atlanta, so Atlanta, you got Trae Young at 9,500. You got DeJounte at 8,500. Trey at 9,500, like, he's okay. I don't love him on this slate, though. Trey, we haven't really seen, like, a big ceiling from Trey lately. He's still had good usage. He's still been taking a lot of shots. But, I mean, you look, when was the last time he had, like, a good game? I mean, beginning of January against Golden State, he had 62 DK points. I think that was a game that went to overtime. He had 55 against the Lakers. Look, I don't want to fall into, like, the game log trap because I know, like, at some point Trey's going to have a good game, but he's not really been producing like you would want him to. And at 9,500, I mean, if you're paying this price tag for Trey, you're wanting 55, close to 60 DraftKings points, and it's been like 2 or 3 weeks now that he has been under that number. I feel like a good game's coming at some point. If you want to play Trey in tournaments, I don't hate it, but he feels priced about right. Same with DeJounte at 8,500. I think the guy that I'm most interested in from Atlanta would be Clint Capella. I do want to mention that Onyeka Okongwu is questionable for this game, and I think if Okongwu gets ruled out, that would actually benefit Capella a decent amount. We saw Capella start these last few games. Now, last game against Charlotte, he only played 24 minutes, but he was fairly productive, did have 28 DK points. Him and Okongwu have basically been splitting the center minutes lately. But if Okongwu gets ruled out, like, they don't really want to play Frank Kaminsky. I think we would see a lot of, Capella, playing this 5, and then we might see John Collins get some minutes at center. But I think we would see more minutes for Capella if Okongwu got ruled out. So 5,500, if Capella can play anywhere near like 30 minutes today, which I think he would if Okongwu didn't play, 5,500 would definitely be too cheap for him. So keep an eye on that Okongwu news. I think it's actually pretty important. And if he does wind up sitting, I think that is a nice boost for Clint Capella. I would have interest in him if he were to get ruled out. But that's really it for that game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Minnesota and Houston. So I think these teams just played on Saturday. It was a pretty high-scoring game, and I think once again we can expect a really high-scoring game here. These are two teams that play fast. We'll start off on the Houston side. Şengün is coming in at 8,400. He was really good in this matchup against Minnesota. A few days ago, played 37 minutes, had 57 DK points. One thing I want to mention right now with Şengün, you look at his minutes, 30, 37, 39, 37. They are really starting to give him big minutes lately. I have a feeling this is going to continue. I mean, I don't know why they would just play him 36, 37, 38 minutes and then just go back to playing him like 28 minutes. Most of the season, Şengün was playing like high 20s, low 30s. Now he's been getting high 30s. If we're getting high 30s minutes from Şengün, like, he's a guy that can put up huge games. We've seen the triple-double upside from him. He can score. He's a great rebounder. He can get assists. He can get defensive stats. Like, he's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet when he's on the floor. He just had a lot of success in this matchup last time they played. Do want to mention that Rudy Gobert is questionable. I think if Rudy Gobert does play, that makes the matchup for Şengün a little bit worse, but still, man, Şengün's going to stuff the stat sheet when he's on the floor, and his minutes have been really up there lately. So I'm still kind of interested in him, even at 8,400. Matchup here for Jalen Green's really tough. He's going to be guarded by Jaden McDaniels, who's a really, really good defender. And we saw Green really struggle in this matchup on Saturday. Played 33 minutes, shot 3 for 13, only had 10 DraftKings points. Just a horrible game from him. He's probably going to bounce back here, have a better game, but I don't love the spot for Jalen Green. Obviously, without Kevin Porter Jr. right now, there's a lot of usage for Green to soak up, and he's going to be kind of the number one guy on offense, but not a slate where I really see myself going out of my way to play Jalen Green. Do want to mention that Jabari Smith is also questionable for Houston, so I think last game Jabari Smith was out, and we did see them start Tari Eason. Now, Tari Eason played 27 minutes, was really productive, had 26 DK points. He's been relatively productive when he's gotten minutes this season. He's been about a fantasy point per minute player. He's only 3,800. So if Jabari Smith is out again, I assume Tari Eason would start. And at 3,800, Tari Eason would be a really good value today. I would have a lot of interest in him as a cheap option. And then without Kevin Porter Jr., we should continue to see more minutes and increased roles for KJ Martin, for Eric Gordon. KJ Martin is 5K. I think this price tag, he's still playable. I mean, you look at his last few games that he's been starting. He's been playing about 30 to 32 minutes a night. He's been averaging close to a fantasy point per minute. At 5K, I still think he's in play. And Eric Gordon's production has been better without Kevin Porter Jr. I mean, you look at his game log, 32, 33, 28. He's been playing pretty decent minutes as well. He's still fairly cheap. So I kind of have some interest in him as a value. I think, a lot of these Rockets guys look pretty solid. But definitely, my favorite play from Houston, if Jabari Smith is out, my favorite play for sure would be Tari Eason. And then on the other side, looking at Minnesota. So for Minnesota, still no Karl-Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert is questionable, like I mentioned earlier. We'll start off with Anthony Edwards at the top. So Anthony Edwards had a huge game against Houston. He put up 71 DK points on I think it was Saturday when these teams played. He played 41 minutes. Look, the matchup is really good. Houston, they've struggled defensively this year. They've been one of the worst defensive teams, and they also have been really bad against scoring guards. Guards that can put up good scoring games. They've struggled to defend those type of guys. And obviously Anthony Edwards, we saw him have a huge scoring game against Houston. So I think Anthony Edwards, once again, looks like a really good pay-up option. Love the matchup. Price tag in 9,300 feels about right, but I definitely think this is a spot where we could once again see another big game from Anthony Edwards. D'Angelo Russell, I think the matchup's really good for him. Last time these teams played on Saturday, he was pretty solid, had 39 DK points, played 31 minutes. I don't mind D'Angelo Russell today. I normally don't play D'Angelo Russell, but it's 6,700 in this matchup. I think he's on my radar. And then Kyle Anderson kind of came back down to earth last game, had a pretty disappointing game, but he's been really good in the minutes that he's played without Rudy Gobert this season. I think if Rudy Gobert does get ruled out, that would definitely be a boost for Kyle Anderson. I would have a little bit of interest in him, even at 6,300. And then Naz Reid is still really cheap. He's 5,300. He was in foul trouble last game, only played 15 minutes. Even though he got in foul trouble last game, pretty much, I'm going to say it, like Naz Reid is one of the best value plays on the slate if he's starting and, Gobert is out. We know Naz Reid can produce when he gets minutes. He's been in foul trouble lately, but when he's not in foul trouble, he should play about 30, 32 minutes, maybe more. I think the matchup against Houston is definitely good as long as he can avoid foul trouble. So I would really like Naz Reid today if, Gobert is out again. But that's pretty much it for Minnesota. I think that's everything that I want to talk about there. So we can go ahead and move on to the next game, Charlotte and Utah. So start off on the Charlotte side. LaMelo Ball, questionable for this game. I think LaMelo was doubtful for their last game and didn't play. He got I think it was an ankle injury. He suffered against Houston, missed their next game. We'll have to see if he plays for today. If he plays for today, at 9,800, in his first game back from injury, I wouldn't be super interested in LaMelo, even if he's able to go. I don't think he's going to be someone I really go out of my way to play today. And obviously, if LaMelo returns, that makes guys like Rozier, PJ Washington, the rest of these guys pretty much look, a lot less appealing. But if LaMelo remains out, then I think we can start to look at some of these other Charlotte guys. So like Terry Rozier is 8K. He had a really big game without LaMelo last game, put up 55 DK points, played 39 minutes. He's obviously going to take on a really big role, going to have the ball in his hands a ton. He's going to be the number one guy on offense if LaMelo were to remain out. So I would definitely have interest in Rozier if LaMelo remains out. It's a really good matchup for Mason Plumlee. We've seen Utah give up some big games to centers this season. The price tag on Plumlee, 6,700. That feels about right for Plumlee. I think we're starting to get to a point where it's like, does Plumlee have the upside to pay off this price tag? But, you look at his game log, the dude's been putting up 45 DK points. He's been scoring way more this year. That's one thing that's really changed about Plumlee. He had 25 points last game. Normally, Plumlee is a guy that, I remember, his points props would be 8.5, 9.5 last season. This season, he's been really scoring. They've just been getting him the ball a lot in the paint. And obviously, that's where Utah struggles. I know Utah's given up a lot of points in the paint this season. So the matchup's really good for Plumlee. It's just the price tag doesn't make him a standout play. PJ Washington, he had a huge game last game, put up 42 DK points. I think he does benefit if LaMelo is out, and I would have some interest in Washington at 6K, even if if LaMelo's out. If LaMelo plays, I'm not as interested in Washington. And then surprisingly, they elected to bring Dennis Smith Jr. off the bench last game. I thought Dennis Smith Jr. would start for LaMelo, but he came off the bench. Now, he did still play 27 minutes, but if he comes off the bench again, obviously this is assuming that LaMelo's out. If LaMelo's out and they elect to bring Dennis Smith Jr. off the bench again, probably not going to go there even at 4,600. Gordon Hayward did make his return last game. He only played 25 minutes, though. He was pretty productive. He did have 28 DK points in those 25 minutes. I'd assume that Gordon Hayward plays more than 25 minutes today. I'd assume he plays about 30. 30 minutes from Gordon Hayward at 5,300. This is a pretty cheap price tag, so I don't mind Gordon Hayward, and I would definitely like him a little bit more if LaMelo got ruled out. He would be on my radar. And then Jalen McDaniels did remain in the starting lineup last game. He was in major foul trouble, though. If he's still in the starting lineup, I think he's okay at 5,200. Not a priority play, but he would be viable if he's still starting. But that's pretty much it for the Charlotte side. Now we'll start talking about Utah. So really good matchup here for Lauri Markkanen. We know Charlotte, they play at a fast pace. They're not a good defensive team. Just 9,400 is a tough price tag to pay for Lauri Markkanen. I really haven't been playing Lauri Markkanen that much this season. He's just been kind of overpriced. He's had some big games, but a lot of times when you're playing him at this price tag, more times than not, he's going to underwhelm. He needs to put up 55, 60 to be worth this price tag, and I just feel like there's other guys that have just as much, if not more, upside than Markkanen. That are cheaper or they're priced at the same price tag as him. So not super interested in Markkanen even in a good matchup. Jordan Clarkson at 6,800, I don't mind. He's not a guy that I've played much this season, but I think it's a pretty good spot for him. Again, Charlotte plays fast. They're a bad defensive team. It's a good spot for all these guys, but I think Clarkson looks solid. Really like the matchup for Walker Kessler. We've seen Charlotte get killed by bigs this season. They're giving up a ton of fancy points to centers. They've really struggled to rebound. They've struggled, giving up points in the paint. This is one of those spots where I think Walker Kessler could really dominate, could have a big rebounding game. I know he was disappointing last game against Brooklyn, but I'd expect him to bounce back here in a really, really good matchup. So I do like Walker Kessler quite a bit. He's probably my favorite play on Utah. Mike Conley, I'll probably just, I'll pass on. Malik Beasley, I'll pass on. I think that's pretty much it for the Utah side. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. We got 2 more to hit, San Antonio and Portland. So Portland, they are on a back-to-back today. They play the Lakers on Sunday night. Assuming everyone's good to go. I don't love a ton on Portland today, but the matchup is really good. So I could definitely see going to Dame in tournaments. I know Dame as of late has been crushing, been putting up huge game after huge game. Matchup here against San Antonio is definitely a good one. San Antonio, bad defensive team. They've given up a lot of fancy points to point guards this year. You do have to worry about blowout. Anytime you're talking about San Antonio, just because they're such a bad team, they're going to get blown out a lot. But if the Spurs can keep this game close, I think Dame offers a ton of upside. Have some interest in him as a pay-up option. It's a really good spot for Nurkic. He's been pretty underwhelming lately. He's been in foul trouble too. He had another bad game Sunday night against the Lakers. But this is a really good matchup. I don't mind going to Nurkic today at 7K. I think his ownership will be really low, especially with how bad his game log has been lately. But Grant and Simons and Josh Hart, I don't love. Josh Hart's kind of cheap. Could see going to him in cash games, but he's a guy that doesn't offer a big ceiling. In tournaments, you're just not getting much upside from Josh Hart, so he's a tough guy to roster in GPPs. But the floor is pretty solid, making him kind of a viable cash play. But that's pretty much it for Portland. And on the San Antonio side, I don't like much on the Spurs here. Keldon Johnson is going to have a big role without Devin Vassell, but I think it's 7,400. And given this matchup, given the potential blowout risk, I really don't want to go to Keldon Johnson on this slate. I don't really want to go to Trey Jones. I don't mind Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl is a guy that can produce when he gets minutes. Minutes have kind of been all over the place lately, but I think if this game is competitive and he's not in foul trouble, we'll probably get 28, 30 minutes from Jakob Poeltl, which, at 6,200, I think he's okay if you want to go there. But that's probably it for San Antonio. Don't see much I like here. So let's go ahead and move on to the last game of the night, talk about the Grizzlies and the Kings. So start off on the Sacramento side, looking at Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, kind of the 2 guys at the top here. Really tough matchup for Sabonis. We've seen Memphis, do a really good job limiting center production this season. Steven Adams, a good defender. He's good at clogging the paint as well. So I just don't think this is a spot where I really want to go to, pay up for Sabonis. Not interested in him. De'Aaron Fox at 8,700 is viable. This should be, a really fast-paced game. So, I think there's some upside for Fox given the pace of this game. I think the matchup for him is definitely better than, going up against Steven Adams. But he'll probably be guarded by Dylan Brooks, who's a good defender. Don't love the spot for Fox, but if I had to play anyone on Sacramento, he probably would be my first pick. Barnes and Herter and Keegan Murray, I think these guys are all priced about right. I know Keegan Murray's had some big games lately. He had 51 against OKC. He hasn't shown a ton of upside this season. I mean, he played 41 minutes last game and only put up 23 DK points. Keegan Murray on a point per minute basis this season has been pretty underwhelming. He hasn't shown much upside for fantasy. Minutes should be there though, which I think at 4,400, especially if there's not a lot of value on the slate, I could see playing Keegan Murray for value just because you're going to get the minutes, but his per minute production has been really bad this season. Again, don't like much on Sacramento. And then on the Memphis side, I think Memphis, they are also on a back-to-back today, so we'll definitely have to monitor their injury report. Now, assuming everyone plays here, Ja Morant at 9,700, I do like quite a bit as a pay-up option. I was pretty high on Ja Friday night against the Lakers, and he had a really, really tough game. Played normal minutes. It was a competitive game, but he only shot 9 for 29. He had just 35 DK points. He was pretty disappointing again on Sunday against the Suns. Maybe this is the spot where Ja Morant finally puts up a big game. Good matchup against Sacramento. Should be a really fast-paced, high-scoring game. So I do like Ja Morant quite a bit today at 9,700. Triple J, Bane, where they're priced at, not super interested in either one. Steven Adams at 5,900, I don't mind. His minutes have been pretty solid lately, and Steven Adams has shown that when he does get minutes, he can produce. And when these teams have played this season, Steven Adams has been pretty solid. He's averaged, 35.5 DK points per game against Sacramento. They're going to want his size against Domantas Sabonis. So, 5,900, I don't mind Steven Adams today. Him and Ja Morant are probably my 2 favorite plays on Memphis, but I really don't see anything else I like here. So, that'll do it for Monday's 7-game slate, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, as always, appreciate you watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button before you do get out of here. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And go check out PrizePicks, sponsor of the video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks. Use my promo code NOAH. When you do sign up with my promo code, you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. Definitely check out PrizePicks if you have not yet. And As always, I should have a prospects video posted for today. Check the channel sometime, early Monday afternoon. You'll see me, posting a video, giving out a few plays for prospects. So if you want to tell me in those videos with the picks I give out, you can always do that. But if you're not signed up for prospects yet, use that code NOAH when you sign up, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But best of luck tonight, guys. Hope you all enjoy your Monday night. Hopefully we can all win some money tonight, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.